All right, well, moving on to a similar topic of consistency. Ross Chastain. I went full commit into one. I got tight and turned myself after he and Larson crashed in the closing laps fighting for the lead. Brett, spot on, spot off.
Oh, boy.
You get like a minute and a half. Go.
What an idiot.
Which one?
The one. Like, you're coming off of a week where you're getting a lot of love from fans. Dale Jr. raises his hand and says, man, NASCAR needs to get behind this guy. His team needs to get a marketing plan. They need to make him the intimidator. They need to make him the man in black. They need to do all these things from a marketing and promotions and licensing perspective. And then he goes out here racing at one of the best racetracks in the country. Ross Chastain has never won at an oval in the Cup Series. Ross Chastain has won at a plate track where the seas parted and he inherited the lead. Freddie could have done that. And I don't mean nothing by that. But Freddie's running on the bottom and everybody else moves up and Freddie gets pushed to the front and he wins the race. Like, Ross didn't really do anything there to win the race. Obviously, he won COTA last year, a very impressive win there, a road course race, which, again, I think A.J. Allmendinger is part of the reason why he's such a good road racer. But you're racing at a great racetrack. You're racing one of the best drivers in the world, if not the best driver in the world, and you completely drive into his door and then you completely wreck yourself. And it screwed the fans out of what we thought was going to be a really good finish. But, man, just this guy, he can't help himself. Like, he gets perceived to be this butthole, and then he finally is kind of fixing it, and now he's back a butthole again.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give him credit. He wasn't lying. He said he was going to go full commit. He did. He said he wanted to run him up the hill. He did. The execution was less than ideal because if he wanted an example on how to do it, he could have took notes from Kyle doing it to him to restart before, because a lot of people missed that with the Truex and all that stuff going on behind the leader. But Kyle and him stay wheel to wheel, and then Kyle squeezes him in the fence off of 2 and gets the big run down the back and was going to clear him and be gone. But he just drives in, he commits a little too much, gets too clear, and hooks himself in the fence. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, Bernard Pollard sent me a text last night, and he's like, man, where are you at with Ross? He's like, obviously I don't know anything about this. He's like, where is he good for the sport? Do you agree with what he does? And I said, man, he's great for the sport. Like, he's phenomenal for the sport. I don't agree with anything he does. Like, it's a 2-level question there, because anything that gets people talking, I mean, we talked about on here, like sponsors taking the sport mainstream or drivers trying to get mainstream. Ross is on the Pat McAfee show last week after that deal fighting on pit road. It doesn't get more mainstream than the Pat McAfee show right now.
How is it not good for the sport when you're on the
shows
like that?
So, like, that's great for the sport, but then you can't come back and just do something like this. And like you said, at a place like Darlington, probably one of or the fastest car all day long, and you end up in the garage at the end of the day because of a stupid move into one. I get fully committing, but fully committing is only going to, it's not going to work. Like, you can't do that. So I don't know. Like, it's just spot on.
And you can't do it in a car there.
Yeah, he had lane choice, and how do you get lane choice? Because of the freaking timing lines.
Good job not cursing. Jesse, spot on, spot off.
I like Ross. Like, he helps me out.
I like Ross too,
and all that stuff. But that was dumb as hell. Like, at the end of the day, he is one of the best drivers as far as speed goes wherever he goes. And the most annoying part of it is that he's a really good race car driver. And when you're that good of a race car driver, there's no excuse to have no finesse about going in there and just screwing up that whole deal. He knows how good he is, and we all know that too. And we all expect him to have at least some sort of finesse instead of just bulldoze your way off in there and wreck 2 cars, right? Like, there's a point where the only thing with Ross is that, like, he's making it harder than it needs to be. Like, he could have, in my opinion, like a couple true oval wins by now, but he's making it way harder than it needs to be. Instead of taking a second, he tries to make it a first and ends up 35th, and then has a bunch of enemies and is getting in fights and all that stuff. When if he just runs second, and then runs top 3 a bunch of times, like he has the speed to do, those wins are just going to come by nature. So it's unfortunate, because I like him a lot and he's really good, and it sucks to see somebody that good like do something with no finesse when you know they have all the finesse in the world.
So TJ, there were a lot of conversations around like Rick Hendrick comments or Cliff's comments about how Ross has wrecked 3 Chevys in the last 3 weeks. What does a manufacturer do or a team owner do in this situation, knowing that they're essentially not helping them, at least the manufacturer piece?
I mean, he's a team owner. That's the card I would probably play too. You always want to keep your numbers up, but man, racing for wins, I don't think, I agree with Jesse. I think Ross needed to knock out a couple top 2s or 3s, and who knows, he doesn't come off that corner leading the race still. He could run Kyle up off a 2 and put him in the marbles a little bit and clear him and take the win that way. But, it's hard not to, you said it before, Brett, win at all costs. So, and that Ross felt like that was his chance to get out front and what he needed to do. And I mean, I don't think it was the best play for him personally, but I don't fault a guy for, I don't care if it's Ross or somebody else. It could be Bubba, Brad. If they're going for the win, I mean, obviously Ross has had more speed and had really good cars, and you definitely don't want to make bad luck for yourself. But I definitely probably wouldn't have tried to put him in the wall. But you got to go for the win too. But I don't know. Everyone messes up, man. I mean, Kyle ran you into the fence at Vegas, right? I mean, and that's Kyle, and that's early in the race too.
I would have no issue. It's the execution. Like if you squeeze Kyle in the wall and beat him off of turn 2, I'm going to go, hey, that was good job, Ross. But you can't go in there just full bore and wreck yourself. I mean, you did, but like if you execute it properly, it's literally Kyle did it to him the restart before, just ran him up, stayed wheel to wheel with him through the center of the corner, about 3/4 mark. He squeezes him in the fence, turns down the hill, and he gets clear off a 2. Like if Ross does that, I'm good with it. But like you go in here and just kind of overcommit, get too far out in front of Kyle so that when you do squeeze him up in the wall, he's got no option but to turn you into the wall. And then the funniest part of the whole thing was obviously Kyle stays in the gas and pushes Ross all the way down the back straightaway. And I don't know if you watched the video of Brandon McReynolds going.
Is he smiling?
No, Brandon McReynolds is going, still pushing.
Oh,
you.
Yeah.
Still pushing you. I'm like, it's just the way he said it. I was dying. Brandon McReynolds was one of my favorite
He was
humans.
so laid back.
It's just
still
like,
pushing you.
Still pushing
Yeah. Yeah, he was. And him and
Tyler.
they were standing next to each other,
They're
too.
best. So, by the way, which something we forgot last week to bring up was that Brandon McReynolds manages Ross and Noah, and they're beating each other up.
No, he
on
doesn't manage
pit road.
Ross.
I'm sorry. He spots for Ross, manages Noah. And then they're beating each other up on pit roads. That was awkward for him. We forgot it last week. I wish we didn't. But then Tyler Mon and Brandon are like best friends on the roof, and they're standing next to each other, and they go ahead and wreck each other.
They're a country music duo act.
They
everywhere
are.
They go.
If
They
you go to Nashville,
they go perform live.
Why can't we ever have Brandon on the show?
We can. We'll
why
have him on
won't
here
he? He
eventually.
never agrees.
Here's the thing about this. I think Rick Hendrick is firing a warning shot across the bow to Chevrolet in his statements. Who do you think got the end of the stick at Phoenix between Chase and Ross? It was Chase. Who do you think got the bad end of the stick at Dover between Ross and Kyle? Who do you think got the bad end of the stick between Ross and Kyle yesterday? Like, I think that Rick Hendrick is tired of seeing his race cars get wrecked when Rick Hendrick is the number 1 Chevrolet team in the garage. Who do you think sells more Chevrolets at their dealerships, Rick Hendrick or Justin Marks? I'm gonna think Justin Marks doesn't even have a dealership, so probably Rick Hendrick. When you talk about key partners, obviously Trackhouse is a key partner, so was Rick Hendrick. Rick Hendrick is the key partner, though. He's the top of the pecking order. I think this is him saying out loud to Chevrolet, you better get this guy to stop wrecking my race cars, because at the end of the day, Jesse, Ross has pissed off half the garage, and it's still yet for anybody to do anything to him.
And I was thinking about this analogy on the way here. You have 2 guys that are similar on speed, William Byron and Ross Chastain. There's really no place, with the exception of Bristol Dirt, where you're going to go and say Byron's got no shot and Chastain has no shot. They both got a shot every weekend. But Byron goes and takes his top 3s when he can, and then those turn into wins. And then Ross is either 30 dang 5th or wins the race, right? So, I mean, you'd think that no way Rick Hendrick would leave, but you'd think the same thing about Jimmy Johnson. So, it was some strong words by Rick, and I was kind of surprised to hear it, but at the same time, it's well deserved to say that.
Yeah, I mean, the manufacturer doesn't come into play when you have an issue like this, especially for Rick. Like you said, Rick don't care. Like Chevy's not going anywhere for him.
I mean, he literally said, and I quote, "I'm loyal to Chevrolet, but when somebody runs over us, I expect our guys to hold their ground. I don't expect them to yield because of Chevrolet." So he's basically saying, all
fair
bets
game.
off the table.
You know, like I saw all this stuff with Ross last week about, like Dale's, and they're talking about, he's good for the sport because he's this edgy and he wins races, and he doesn't win races. Like he's won 2 races. And
2 out of 164.
And he's won 1 on a plate race and 1 at COTA, which he did a phenomenal job, but he also knocks people out of the way there to do that. So, it's like,
but how many wins has he cost Chevrolet?
Well, I can't even imagine. But like it's how many races should he have won, or could he have won in this time period, or at least been in a position to win where something stupid happens? So, like Jesse said, if you put yourself in position enough times, something good's going to happen, and you're going to end up winning a race. But to say like he's on this level because he goes out and wins races and he's edgy and he's going to have to win some more races before I give him that credit.